Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review A Compassionate Spy. And this is a new documentary from director Steve James, focusing on the story of Manhattan Project scientist Ted Hall, who had given up nuclear secrets to the Russians post-World War II. And this documentary is challenging. I'm going to say that right off the bat. And I'm still trying to process exactly how I feel about this film. Because on some level, it's a well-structured, well-made documentary. It makes use of some good, crisp footage that they were able to find and restore. There's some pretty impactful imagery, like they show some of the bomb tests and stuff like that. And that just has a level of impact. I think the dramatizations that they incorporate into the film, I think they work fine. They're not particularly distracting. They're also not something that really elevates the film. I do think that there is a lot of compassion for our main focus of the film. And so much of this film really is from his wife's perspective and seeing that intimate love that she has for her husband, and it's very raw, it's very earnest, and I think that's very moving in terms of watching the film. You could get behind their relationship, you can get behind their connection. It's meaningful, it has depth. But I do struggle with this film on some level because it really takes the perspective of Hall was right, and he should have done what he did. And his wife defends him throughout this film. And they vilify the U.S. government in many ways, which don't really have to try too hard. They don't need a whole lot of help. And I think that's one of the saving graces. They do some underhanded things. And in terms of trying to, especially at this time period with the search for communists and McCarthyism and stuff like that, it's really easy to vilify them. But I feel like this film, and especially Hall's wife, are really trying to give a full-blown pass to this man in terms of what he did. I do think, as they show him, he feels a little bit more complex, a little bit more complicated. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around exactly how this film feels about him in terms of justifying his actions, which, and this could just be my perspective, to me there is no justification. He gave up nuclear secrets to a genocidal maniac like Joseph Stalin. And that's no dice. That's not a good thing. And I get they're trying to frame the perspective of, hey, we need to find balance of power, and which led to the Cold War. The Cold War happening for decades. This standoff of nuclear proportion and the potential to absolutely destroy the whole entire world. It's one of those kinds of things where I feel like this film, for all of its technical positives, from its emotion, still tries to frame a thesis that's hard to swallow and, from my perspective, hard to justify. And yes, it does present complexities and the extreme actions of the U.S. government. And I do appreciate that they do show actual commentators in this documentary calling that out. I guess I'm still trying to process how neutral this film really is to the situation, or are they really trying to be there and supportive of him and trying to justify his actions, because I don't really think his actions are justifiable. But that's also my perspective, which is why I think this is a really interesting documentary to sit back and watch, and why I would definitely recommend this, because it presents such an interesting and complicated issue. And especially in the time period right now with Oppenheimer coming out, this is very relevant and connects very well. What an interesting double feature that would be. But in the end, I do think this is a well-made documentary. It's complicated. It's going to make you think, make you feel. And in many ways, it accomplishes its mission that way. It just what exactly is this film trying to say is what muddies the water. But those are my thoughts on A Compassionate Spy. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.